welcome to this month's subscription box. We are going to be working on a very cool feather plaque. Our theme this month is kind of a wild and free nature boho kind of feel. So we've got some fun little whimsical things to work on. What we're going to be working on today is this little feather plaque. The supplies that you have in your kit are obviously, we've got our paint that we always have. We have a table covering so that we can keep our surfaces clean. You've got your feather plaque. With that you also have a little bag of wires and beads. That's going to be to make this little hanger. This one just has the hanger done. It hasn't been painted. When you do yours, you're going to want to paint first and then add your hanger. All right, but this is how you're going to see it, like that. You also have these little cups of clear liquid, okay? These are going to be labeled for you. These are resin, and this is what we're going to use to put into this feather to make it shiny once it's all painted, okay? And then we also have a little mixing cup and a popsicle stick for our mixing. All right, so the first thing I want to show you how to do is how to paint this. I am going to use some brown for my background to make it look a little woody. And then I'm going to do a rainbow kind of wash here on my, my feather. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my brown, and I think I'm going to use a sponge. I'm going to get it wet, and you guys are going to have sponge because you know how much I love to give you these little sponges. And we're just going to pick up a little bit of this brown paint, and we've got it pretty watered down, and we are just going to lightly rub it over, okay? We're going to try to go in one direction. This is going to help give it kind of a woody feel. It doesn't have to be completely covered. It can just kind of be light. It's okay if you go over and get a little on your feather because we're going to paint over the top of that anyway. And so these paints will cover that up. And we're just watering down this paint. You don't have to do brown in the background. You could just do a regular color with a paintbrush if you wanted to. I just personally wanted to kind of do a wood kind of look. Again, see how I'm just going right over the top of my feather. It's okay because your acrylic paint that you're using for this is going to cover that up. So we're just kind of trying to give a wood looking background. All right, so I've already sponged across. Remember, I used my sponge and I just went straight across so I would create these lines. Now we can enhance those lines if you wanted to do that wood background by just getting a nice little thin brush, and you can go ahead and you can kind of put some broken lines in there to kind of mimic what you would find on a board. Okay, you could also do like maybe like a little knot hole if you wanted to, something like that maybe. Feel free to even go through with maybe some black or darken up that brown, but just trying to give it a little bit of texture in there, a little bit of variation, and that's going to give you that kind of wooden feel. Your lines don't have to be perfectly straight because your wood, when you cut a piece of wood, it might not be straight either. We're just trying to give it a nice feel. It's a good idea when you're doing this, go ahead and go over the top of your feather like that so that you're not breaking up your strokes. You're kind of being just kind of random with them. Otherwise it looks really obvious that you like made a line here, right? So we can do this, and we can even thicken that up a little bit to make that knot hole like that. Okay, and then we work around like that, break it up, something like that. All right, and that is how you're going to do that wood background. All right, so now I'm going to do just a rainbow of colors, and what I'm going to be showing you how to do is how to blend these colors in, okay? So find yourself a nice brush that's going to work for you, not too big, not too small. Make sure it's got a little bit of give, it's not too stiff, okay? A little moppy brush is kind of good, but you don't want too much. We're going to get some water on our brush, and then we are going to thin out our first color. Again, I'm doing the rainbow. You do not have to do the rainbow. You can do any colors you want. Because I'm really watering this down, it's going to flow, and I'm going to start at this end, and I'm going to stay just within my feather line, okay? So I'm going to just kind of go down like this, and I'm staying within. Remember, it's watered down, so it's going to want to move a little bit. Once you get some red in there that you want, we're going to get the red in there. Again, very watered down, and you don't want a straight line. You just want to kind of blend it. All right. And then we're going to dip that same brush, and we don't even have to worry about getting all the red out. We're going to grab some orange because that's our next color, and we're going to water that orange down, and we're going to move into our orange, going right over the top of the very bottom of our red. It's okay to go overlap on top of that red because that's going to help it blend and look like it's fading into one another. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and rinse just a little bit, pick up some yellow, really watered down. Again, you can see that I did not completely clean out that brush. It's going to help those colors just make it look like a more consistent blend. So it's not such a harsh line between the two. Again, lots of water. Sometimes you might want to wet your brush and not even add any more paint, but just kind of go over the top like that. Okay, remember, get all the way to the edge of that feather. Go on top of the color above it. All right. Now pay attention to how much space you're using for each color because you want to fit them all in, right? So I got red, orange, yellow. I need to do green, blue, and purple. So I'm gonna kind of measure that out, eyeball it. I rinsed, I picked up some green, watered down my green pretty good, and then I'm gonna fade into my yellow. Again, lots of water. We want it to blend just like that. Lots of water. We're being very careful to make sure our brush isn't so wet that that water that we're putting on there is going over to the sides past our feather. Again, a little bit of water, and I'm gonna just put it right on top of where that yellow and green meet to help blend it in. Bringing it down. You see how it's just kind of pooling together and becoming seamless. No harsh lines. We're gonna go into our blue, pick up our blue, same thing. All right, now that you've got all your colors down, go ahead and get a damp brush and just kind of lightly go over it and working your way down from your first color down to your last color. I'm not adding any more paint, I'm just blending in with water so we can kind of soften those lines a little bit, help them mix together. Trying to get right to the edge where these white lines are sticking out. It's okay if they're still there though. Just kind of highlights your feather that way. Okay, working my way down, into the purple, Now you could just try to make sure that your colors go all over those little white edges, being really careful. Or you could take some black paint and outline your whole feather. That's an option too. But we're just gonna go through and make sure that we get all these little white edges taken care of unless we want to leave them white. So you can either blend those colors out to make sure they get those white edges, or you can leave them white, or you can make them black. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take a really tiny brush again and just pick up a little bit of this black. We're gonna make it kind of thin. And this is an option, you don't have to do this. You might like yours the way it is. And I'm just gonna lightly follow the lines in this feather here with my black. Again, you don't have to do this. If you are going to do it, just know that if you thin out that black to a point that it's more like ink than it is paint, you're gonna have a lot easier time doing this, okay? And just keep working it like that. So I'm just gonna use this and go all the way up here until I get to this. Is that a stem? I don't know, what's that called? The rib? Is it a rib? A feather, is that the rib?
Is it a bone?
Maybe. Bone, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm just gonna call it the veins, okay? Nevada doesn't appreciate that. She doesn't like words like veins, but that's what I'm gonna call it. And then I'm gonna go up into here and just take a little bit more. Just kind of finish out my feather, highlighting that. And then I think what I'm gonna do, just because I'm going with what I feel, is I'm just gonna kind of go for it and just kind of accent some of these pieces. I'm not being precise, I'm just kind of being free and whimsical. Right, now that your feather's all painted and dry, I'm gonna make sure it's dry. We're gonna move on to the resin. You have gloves in your kit, make sure you put your gloves on. And again, we always cover our surfaces. If you didn't have your surface covered prior to this, you're gonna make sure your surface is covered now, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the resin. We got our gloves. We're going to take the 2 liquids that we got here, and we're going to make sure that we scrape all of each liquid out into this bigger container, all right? Make sure you hold on to those lids because they're going to come in handy here in a second as well, okay? So we are going to scrape, 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 getting as much of it out of there as possible because these 2 cups are measured out, so they're the exact same amount. And it's really important that we get all of it out so we have equal parts. Once you have all of your liquid in the bigger cup, you are going to be mixing it for 3 full minutes, guys. And when I say mixing it, I mean you are scraping the sides, you are going across the bottom, you are making sure it is well incorporated. Set a timer. You want to do it for 3 minutes. It's really important that this is well mixed, all right? So when I say stir, you're going to stir, not knocking it out. We're going around. We are using the flat side of our popsicle stick, and we are scraping the sides. We are using the bottom and scraping across the bottom of our cup. We are getting in that little groove there on the bottom of our cup, and we are repeating those steps over and over and over again for 3 full minutes. We have mixed for 3 minutes. I don't know about you, but my hands are sore and tired. So we're gonna this mix right here, this resin. What it's gonna do is those are two separate parts, and it's a chemical reaction. When we mix them together like this, it allows them to be hard and harden up, almost like glass, and really shiny and clear. However, you have about 45 minutes to work with it before it gets hard like that. So we want to make sure that we're well mixed. The other thing is I put the lids on those little empty cups now, and I'm going to use these as a stand. So I am going to put them underneath this in case I have any dripping off the sides. We're going to hope not, because our goal today is to only keep the resin within the feather, okay? And remember, there's that little groove there. So as long as we don't push too far out or pour too much resin on this, it should stay within that feather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my popsicle stick, and I'm going to right down here, down the rib, bone, whatever it is. Did we decide what it's called? And I'm going to start with a little bit of resin, okay? From there, I'm going to use this popsicle stick and kind of smooth it out, working towards the edge. Again, we don't want it to go outside of the feather, so we're being very careful, very patient, and just kind of working it towards the edge. Because if we get too much towards the edge, it's going to pour over, and we do not want that. Alright, so I've got all my resin on there, and you'll see I've got a couple little drips off to the side. I'm not perfect either. Tip with that is try not to hold your cup directly over this part. Keep it over your feather, so if anything does drip, it drips where you want it to be. Not the end of the world, though, that it got there. The other thing you can do is if you need to, you can use a little toothpick to kind of just push it closer to the edge. You want to make sure that you've got no little empty holes in here, so you want to make sure everything's nice and shiny, no empty spots. Once you get that all covered, you're going to take the little straw that's in your kit, and you're going to gently blow, okay? And that's because there's these little air bubbles in there that we want to get out. All right, we don't want to blow so hard that it blows our resin off. We just want to gently pop those bubbles. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in the video. Nevada's going to get nice and close and see if she can. But what it's going to look like is little bubbles of carbonation slowly popping. If I blow too hard, you'll see right here. We don't want that. Thing you want to do is you want to make sure that there's nothing that fell in here. So like I can see that there's a little piece of hair that fell in there, and we're going to go ahead and pull that out. You see it? And with that, I'm going to do that and give it a gentle. Now this is where it's a good time for you to put it somewhere to dry, because it's going to have to dry at least 24 hours before it's cured enough that if things fall on it, they won't stick. So put a box or something over the top of it so that it can dry without things randomly falling in it. Like if you've got dogs or cats or anything like that, things could fall in there, dust particles. We want it nice and crystal clear. The box that your kit comes in would be a great place to do this. That way, if anything dripped over the sides, it's in your box. And also when you're done, you can just kind of close that lid and let it dry. All right, so in 24 hours, this will be nice and hard. In 72 hours, it'll be completely done. All right, so once it's all hardened, then you're going to, again, attach your little hanger that you've beaded, and you'll be all set.